From a CEO's meeting with a homeless employee that changed his entire outlook, to the show revealing a company's major triumphs and brilliant services, these are some undercover boss moments no one saw coming, starting with a life-changing experience for this sporting goods mogul. In this episode from Season 4, Mitch Modell, the CEO of Modell's Sporting Goods, decided to train for a couple of different jobs in his company. He wasn't in the best physical shape, so his employees dug up some easier jobs for him to get done, and even those turned out to be too difficult for him. Throughout the episode, they gave him an insight into what it's like to work a minimum wage, labor-intensive job, making him consider how little he knew about the work his employees do. He was clearly embarrassed by the lack of communication between his employees and the upper management in his company, finding out that many of his stores weren't stocked properly. The most emotional point in the episode was when Modell met Angel, a woman living in a homeless shelter with her children, struggling to make it through every day. He approached her posing as an unemployed and down-in-the-dumps person, looking for a job. And guess what? Angel ended up consoling Modell. The woman, truly living up to her name, moved Modell to tears with her response. She wasn't just super positive, but told him that she believed in him and knew things would get better for him. Can you imagine someone in a position like that putting aside her own pain and helping a complete stranger with her kindness alone? That particular experience really changed something in Modell, and he decided to make some much-needed changes. He sent one of his store associates on a week-long, all-expenses-paid family holiday, gave him a promotion, and new store ambassador responsibilities. He gave another one of his employees a stern talking to, telling them to stop missing work days and telling him that he'd give him 20,000 big ones for having perfect attendance for 3 months. He even sent the same employee and his brother on a trip with the Brooklyn Nets. Yet another employee was in for a treat when he was surprised with a promotion and a check for $50,000 taxes prepaid. As for Angel, she was promoted to assistant manager, given a $14,000 raise, and a check for $250,000 raise, so she could move out of the shelter with her kids and get them all a decent place to stay. This was truly a tear-jerking episode, and no one could have expected this generosity from Modell. The man really went above and beyond all expectations. You'd be surprised by the number of bosses who showed similar kindness to their employees after getting a chance to look at their respective businesses through their workers' eyes. Like this next one, for instance, where the CEO of Diamond Resorts jumped in to help his struggling employees. Stephen J. Klubeck is the chairman and CEO of Diamond Resorts International, a $500 million company that's known for selling timeshare holidays across the globe. Klubeck's motto is, "The customer is always right, but on steroids." His company's motto is, "Yes to anything and everything the customer wants or needs." In this episode of Undercover Boss, Klubeck ended up visiting some of his most property acquisitions, and throughout the process he had to partake in some menial labor things like repairing air conditioners, plastering and painting, hand sanding, and just general repairs around the property. As he was doing all that stuff, he discovered a bunch of things about his workers that shocked him. Like the fact that the woman leading his call center had no idea how to do her job, that his repairmen didn't have the appropriate safety gear, and that all their electrical equipment and tools were super outdated. By the end of the episode, he had some big surprises lined up for his workers. He revealed that he was going to be upgrading all the safety gear while also increasing the staff to ease the load on all of them. He also gave one of his workers a food subscription, bought him an industrial freezer, a pretty gnarly truck, and handed him a $20,000 bonus. He apologized to the woman at the call center, and as a part of that apology, sent her off on a vacation to Hawaii, paid off her student loans, and promised to personally train every single employee in the call center. He had some sweet words for his front desk agent and surprised her with a work trip to Ireland, as well as 50,000 big ones to take care of her sick mother. He also took care of another one of his workers, paying off his mortgage and giving him $50,000 to help support him and his wife. Pretty freaking generous if you ask me. If you want to learn more about humility, wait until you hear about this next episode, because this CEO had to get his hands dirtier than ever before until he learned what it was like working on the front line with his employees. Jose Moss, the owner of a multi-billion-dollar company, came on an episode of Undercover Boss barely prepared for what he was in for. His company Mastech provides infrastructure engineering and construction as a service, and in the episode, Moss was made to work through 4 training sessions at different sites so he could see everything his father had worked on before him to make the company even better. In the big reveal of this particular episode, Moss was given a chance to make things better for the workers that he'd gotten the chance to work with. He called the employees over for a meeting and gave them the news that made most of them super emotional. He helped not one, but several workers, handing out raises, one-time bonuses to pay off various debts, sending them on all-expenses-paid vacations, and even paying for one employee's wedding and honeymoon. He really went all out. There were 2 employees who gave Jose a tough time because he couldn't get the work done, and Jose made sure to call them out for it. At the same time, though, he promised them new tools while also offering to send them to school to get their lineman certifications. This one really tugged on viewers' heartstrings and made for a super touching episode. This next one had viewers reaching for their tissue boxes too. It featured a mayor who was determined to do everything in his power to make his city better. The mayor of Cincinnati was convinced that the only way to get honest opinions from employees was to make sure that they didn't know it was him they were talking to. So he got himself on Undercover Boss. He proceeded to perform a couple of government jobs so he could get some insider info. He even worked in the sanitation department, all to get the inside scoop. At the end of the episode, the mayor ended up giving 2 employees $10,000 each as a gift to one for his hard work and as support for another to go to college. And that's not it. He even made a decent donation to park recreation programs, bought an employee a GPS, got another a winch for their truck, and paid for one employee's trip to NYX. He ended up spending a total of $76,000 on his workers after that episode, all because the experience really helped put him in their shoes and relate to them on a whole new level. All these episodes revealed a bunch of negatives about each of the companies involved and showed how the CEOs tried their best to make amends and improve their services. This next one is a little different since it ended up revealing a bunch of positives about the organization. Sure, there was some room for improvement, but isn't there always? For the most part, the episode showed what a well-oiled machine ADT Security Services is. All the employees were dedicated and some of the sweetest individuals you'll ever come across. For the CEO of the company, Tony Wells, it was a rare chance to get a deeper look into the company, since he'd only been a part of it for only 8 months at that point. He was able to experience all 3 major parts of the company: sales, installation, and monitoring. Considering how new he was to the company back then, it proved to be a great chance for him to get to know his employees, and for them to get to know him. Wells left super impressed with most of his workers, even though they wouldn't necessarily say the same about him, and with a newfound appreciation for his employees and company. He knew the company was in good hands. Like the other episodes I've talked about, the show typically ends with the CEO offering monetary assistance to some of their workers and their families, and this episode was no different. Wells decided to revamp the company's sales approach regarding small businesses, established an employee council, and introduced a new reimbursement policy for gas usage by sales reps. Overall, a pretty big win for the company and its workers. So there you have it from the show, revealing a company's major triumphs and brilliant services, to a CEO's meeting with one of his homeless employees that changed his entire outlook. Those were some undercover boss moments no one saw coming.